What's up, idiots? This is how you defend in squad. All right, first things first, there's no hab icons in this, so pretend these little triangles are habs. When I see people defending in squad in most games, this is what the defense looks like. 30 fucking people hovering around the hab. This is fucking terrible. Please never do this. It's better to die than do this. Now, on the flip side, when you have a defense that's more spread out, like I have here, and these guys start dying, there's just a lot more distance that these red guys have to cover to actually be able to proxy your fob. So what does that mean functionally? Well, as these guys move up, your team can also move up to meet them and cause a second engagement in this area that it isn't in your fob proxy radius down here, and allow more friendlies to spawn in, who can also move to where the contact is. Again, this means you get multiple engagements prior to these red guys being able to close the distance. Just to reiterate, if we go back to the prior example, you're all right here. Clusterfucked on the fob, like I always see. These guys can cover all this distance for free, and the first time you're going to get engaged by them is while they're here. And if they kill a couple of these blue guys, they can now get in for free. And if there's two of them, they are now proxying your fob. They just have much less distance to close. Again, meaning that you can no longer spawn people at your friendly hab. People always ask me whether it's better to have your hab and radio on point or off point, next to each other, away from each other. It really varies map to map. It is a judgment call, and there are pros to cons to each. Just to expand upon the prior example, when you are defending Neva upper, I've already talked about having an active defense where you're spread out, making it harder for the enemy to gap close. While you're doing this, the defense example that I gave you here, you are defending both your fob, your hab, and your radio, as well as the active point. You can put a friendly inside of the point if it makes you happy. But these guys should be cutting off anybody that comes in, or they can gap close easily if they need to and they see that you're losing the point somehow. But remember, these guys down here, they are also important because they're not only watching a flank, but they're also guarding your hab and radio. So if that starts to go down or does get proxied, it's important that somebody's close to be able to fall back to help that out. On the flip side, if you build your radio and hab off of point, there are now two things you have to cover, two objectives. So you're covering the objective as well as the radio and hab itself, because remember, if they take your radio and hab, they take your spawns, which means eventually you will start dying and lose this point. So an active defense like this, you need to spread your guys out more. And some guys need to be back here actually watching the radio and hab, or at least be able to react very quickly. So not that big of a deal if you're here like this, and these guys can gap close in, but if an enemy does always come from down here, if they get a rally or a hab down here, this is inevitably going to go down just because the majority of your guys are concentrated at the area where you're taking contact. And the final example is if your hab and radio are split. Again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. There are plenty of reasons to do this, plenty of reasons that make it viable. Just keep in mind that in addition to still needing to cover the point, you now need to cover your hab and your radio. So there's got to be guys that can react to both of these. And again, this is a very, very easy thing to get out in the open like this. So it's even if these guys can gap close like this, if they do come from the south, this will inevitably start going down, meaning you can't spawn people. So an active defense, when you have three objectives like this, looks something more like this. It's just more area you have to cover, more chances for people to slip in. The obvious plus side is this is more hidden. It's going to take them longer to realize where your radio is. This is a very obvious spot. Similar to the prior example where the hab and radio is down here. The upside with this is it's It's harder for the enemy to find this in theory because they're not getting it while they know one of their objectives is to attack the point. This is very close to the point. They're going to see people streaming out of this area. It becomes very, very obvious where you are coming from and very easy for them to identify. So that's the upsides. The downside is, your active defense becomes harder because your guys need to spread out more. So those are the basic concepts you need to remember when defending points. Please, 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 I'm begging you, please. I never want to see this. I never want to see 13 guys in the hab, on the hab. This is the worst thing in squad. It's better for these guys to run out and die and try to get space back than it is to sit here. I'd rather have you die immediately and have this go down inevitably than sit here and have it just get proxied and slowly go away. Your team recognizes that you're losing this much, much earlier. In addition, you're just playing slow as fuck. Hope this helps some of you out.